Unwilling to leave Jiji behind, Okarun helps Momo escape to the surface. Momo then begins forming a plan to expose the death worm to sunlight. Hello, welcome to another episode of Dandadan. This is episode 15. You Won't Get Away With This, also known as season 2, episode 3. And this is the final episode that was covered in the movie. For anyone who's unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, there was a movie that basically compiled the first 3 episodes of the anime. So for anyone who wanted a sneak peek of season 2, and yeah, this is going to be the final episode that got covered in that. So if you watched the movie, you already know what happens. And if you haven't watched the movie, well, I'll break it down for you. We start off immediately where the last episode ended, where Okarun and Jiji are kicking at each other. And then Okarun grabs Momo and makes a break for it. He starts rushing towards the top of the houses, like the labyrinth. And along the way, Jiji is using his spirit ball to do soccer kicks on it and trying to hit Okarun. It's a pretty cool animated sequence where we just see Okarun carrying Momo and just rushing through all these houses, dodging balls as they're exploding around him. But eventually Okarun and Momo reach the top of the houses, which is where they fell when they fell through the hole. And they look up and they notice that the Mongolian deathworm is spraying something out. And Okarun explains that the Mongolian deathworms are known to weaken their enemies by electricity and also spraying poison. That's what this thing is doing. It's spraying poison. Okarun pretty much explains how we need to expose this thing to sunlight. Creatures that live in the ground, they have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria. And if we bring it out into sunlight, the sunlight will kill the bacteria and it will weaken the Mongolian deathworm. And I like how this is a little flashback to season 1 where they're on the train heading towards Jiji's village. And we see the exact information. So I just thought it was a nice little callback. It also just reminds me a lot of my dad. My dad's one of those people where he believes sunlight can cure everything pretty much. The Chris Rock joke where his dad's put some Robitussin on it. Well, my dad is put some sunlight on it. So I just thought this was kind of fun. We got to expose it to sunlight to kill the bacteria so that we can survive. But they realize, well, we can't get to the hole. The hole's way too high. Momo can't use her psychic powers to reach up to it. So Okarun's I know a way to get you out, but it will just be you. We have a touching moment where Momo grabs his hand and promises that she will do everything she can to save her and Jiji and get them all out of there. And so the plan is that Okarun's going to lay on his back, put a couch, or I should say a sofa, on top of him. Momo's going to sit on that, and then basically he's going to launch it. He's going to use his strength to launch it up into the air, and then once it reaches its highest point, Momo's going to use her psychic powers to launch off the couch to make herself go even higher. And the plan works. They're able to launch themselves up there. We get kind of a funny moment where Momo is not able to reach the hole, and then she has to use her arms to grab it and pull herself up. And as she's doing that, the evil eye shows up. So we're going to get a showdown between the evil eye and Okarun. But before that, we have Momo. Momo's okay, there's no rope up here. I got to find something. She finds some blinds, or I should say some curtains, rips them down. And we have this funny moment where it's quick flashes of her tearing and tying things up. And she has a big bundle of rope, of a makeshift rope. And she's all right, guys, I got a huge haul here. And she throws it into the hole and it barely dips down. It's a huge haul, but it's not even close. It's way too short. So I thought that was kind of funny. So Momo's trying to think, okay, how can I get this thing up the surface? And that's when she has a flashback of when she and Jiji were kids and Jiji was explaining something to her about worms. We don't get to hear what it is just yet, but basically this puts an idea into her head. And so Momo grabs some magazines, burns it on a stovetop, and basically burns the house down while yelling for help. Back with Okarun and Evil Eye, the fight is pretty much even. It's Evil Eye trying to attack Okarun, and Okarun's just dodging everything and running around. And it gets to the point where it's starting to piss off Evil Eye because he's you're just scurrying around like a mouse. Actually fight me. Their fight gets interrupted by Evil Eye's nosebleed. And he realizes that this thing is poisoning us and this vessel won't last long. So I gotta end this fight quickly. So he creates a cursed house to surround Okarun. And Okarun's basically trapped in here. So he can't leave the house, but Evil Eye can step into the house. So Evil Eye steps into the house and just starts punching the crap out of Okarun. And then we get this cool moment where the evil eye is taunting Okarun, saying that once I'm done with you, I'm going to go kill the girl. And that was basically hitting Okarun's berserk button. He immediately grabs Evil Eye by the mouth and he says, "You've done 3 things that piss me off. One of them was attacking Momo. The other was defiling my friend." Basically, by forcing Jiji to attack Momo. Like, that's something that Jiji would never do, but you forced him to do it by taking over his body. And Okarun just goes all out and just starts beating the ever-loving crap out of Evil Eye. And the thing I love about this is that he's not throwing like martial arts moves or anything. He's literally doing squats. So he's squatting down, squatting back up, and as he's going up, he's throwing like, if anyone's watched One Piece, like the Gatling punch, he's basically doing that where he's just rocketing a bunch of punches into Jiji. But the funny thing is that he's doing squats, and then as he's rocketing the punches, he's counting them. So this is like a throwback to season 1 where we saw Okarun behind the school and he was doing squats of like 20. Well, here he's doing squats and then he's doing 20 punches, a squat, 20 punches, a squat, 20 punches, and he just keeps doing this to the point that ends up shattering the house and knocking Evil Eye out. So I thought this was kind of cool. I just like how we have like little throwbacks to what we saw in previous episodes and seasons and stuff. So the fight's done. Both of them are kind of knocked out. But then Okarun wakes up and he's like, "This is no time to pass out. We got to get the hell out of here." So he starts trying to drag Jiji's body when he hears a voice. And that voice is Turbo Granny. For anyone who's forgotten about her, she's still stuck at the very bottom of this place, back where the evil eye was sacrificed. And she's trapped in the Deathworm goo. And she's begging for help, and Okarun shows up. And I like this moment how she believes that she's going to be stuck here for good. And she's about to give up when Okarun shows up and says, "I'll help you out." And as soon as he does, we see like Turbo Granny start tearing up. Like she can't believe that, you know, Okarun's coming back to save her. And then she immediately goes into the tsundere act where she just starts calling him a turd and saying, you know, "Get me out of here. Don't trip or else we're both going to get stuck." And of course, as Okarun's trying to get her, he ends up slipping and they both end up getting stuck in the goo. And then we cut to the surface. The house is burning down. There's a bunch of civilians around to witness all this, just watching what's going on as the firefighters are trying to put out the fire. Momo, for some reason, she admits that she's the one that started the fire. They're like, "Hey, were you the one that started this fire?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then she tries to say, "Well, you know, the Keto family have been sacrificing people and stuff," but it's like, don't admit to firefighters that you just committed arson. But what she's trying to do here is she's trying to get them to spray water down the hole. And then that's when we get the flashback and we get to see what the conversation was about. And what Jiji explains is that they see like a dead worm. And Jiji explains that this worm came out to try to breathe, but the sunlight killed it. What happened was sometimes when it rains, the water will soak up the ground. And worms, they breathe through the soil. But when it's the soil is wet, they can't breathe. So they have to come up to the surface to try to get some air. However, sometimes when they come up, it might be a sunny day and the sunlight cooks them. And it's called earthworm suicide. So Momo's idea is that's how we're going to flush this thing out. I'm going to burn down the house so that the firefighters will come, get them to spray down the hole, soak the place, so that the death worm is forced to come up to the surface where it will get hit by the sunlight. And the plan actually works. The firefighters aren't like spraying into the hole because they have no idea what's going on down there. They're just spraying at the house, but the water is like soaking down into the ground and it forces the death worm to come up to the surface where it gets hit by the sunlight and it starts cooking. And I love this little like ironic twist where the death worm, whose whole power is causing people to commit suicide, basically suicides itself because of Momo. Momo gets the death worm to commit suicide. So it's kind of like a flip, where the death worm was using his powers to get people to commit suicide, and now Momo uses that knowledge of, you know, soil and air and sunlight and stuff to get the Mongolian death worm to commit suicide. So yeah, the Mongolian death worm, it's committed suicide. We have this funny moment where Momo like comes up to it and she's like wondering if it's actually dead. So she's kind of like kicking it with her foot to see if it's really dead. And I like how she's doing the Ultraman pose. Like she's trying to like, a lot of people like if they don't know if the enemy is dead or not, they kind of put their hands up like they're ready for a fight. And Momo's ready for a fight pose is basically the Ultraman pose, which is just awesome because one, I freaking love Ultraman, but also two, like I love the fact that it's also a callback to season 1, where the opening of season 1 had a lot of callbacks to Ultraman, with like the enemies in silhouette and stuff like that. There's a lot of like Ultraman references in Dandadan, which is awesome. But the Mongolian Deathworm starts moving, and Momo's like, oh, is this thing still alive? But ends up just vomiting out the Keto family, who are still alive. And how they still survived, I don't know. They should have been digested, or at least partially digested. But nah, they're good. They're okay. They're just a little bit weak from being inside the Deathworm. And basically they're pissed off at Momo. And I like the fact that Momo's like, I ain't got time to deal with you. And she's going to try to leave to go save her friends, when the landlady's like, you idiot. You just killed the Great Serpent Lord. There is a whole reason that we were sacrificing people to it. You've doomed this entire village. And that's when there's this huge rumbling and a volcano explodes. And that's the cliffhanger. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what the Keto family was doing was really messed up. But at the same time, it was working. The Mongolian Deathworm was preventing the volcano. So it did keep up its end of the deal. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. I freaking love this. I thought this was awesome. The fight scenes were kind of cool. The animation was awesome. I love just like the throwbacks to previous episodes and even the previous season. Especially like with Okarun and the squatting and the punching is like a throwback to his workouts. Or the information about the Mongolian Deathworm was already set up in the previous season, when he was trying to show off to Momo about his knowledge of cryptoids. So I just love all these little callbacks. I think that's really cool. Like, you're basically setting up for future payoffs. And as a writer myself, I love that. Like, that's something that I always try to do with my writing, is I'll always try to throw in little bits of information that might seem inconsequential at first, but then later on there's actually going to be a payoff. So I love the fact that Dandadan does that. The voice acting was really good. I listened to it in both the Japanese and the English. And I love the fact that when Okarun, he changes into his Turbo Granny phase, he has like his voice deepens. And there are moments here where he's talking as he's transforming. So he goes from his regular Okarun voice into the Turbo Granny voice, like mid-sentence. So I like the fact that that was, kept in. Like, that's kind of cool. And I just like the storytelling here. Like, I did a review on Togin Anki earlier this week, and one of the problems I had with that was that it had very little story. It was basically just nothing but a bunch of fight scenes. And I thought it would have been better if we incorporated more story. The thing I love about Dandadan here is that we get fight scenes with story, and we even get story within the fight scenes. So it's not like just punches and kicks. Like, there's little bits of character development and callbacks and stuff within the fights. For example, Evil Eye is using like soccer powers because Jiji's a huge soccer fan, and we have a callback to him playing soccer with Okarun. We have Okarun doing the squats and punching, counting the 20, because he was doing squats of 20 sets. So I just like that even the fights themselves have like actual story and character development within them. That's something that I think other battle shonens can do. But yeah, this was fantastic. I love this episode. And for anyone who wants to start with the manga, usually at the end of these videos, I will tell you what chapters get adapted. So this episode covers chapters 42, 43, 44, and about the first half of 45. So if you want to jump into the manga immediately, like following this episode, start with chapter 45. But there you go. There's Dandadan, episode 15. AKA Season 2, Episode 3. You won't get away with this. Awesome episode. And I hope to see you guys next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again. And I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.